What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Somewhat Sports Podcast. My name is Chris, and I am joined by Jurg, the titan of this podcast, the true number one, the 1A. No Dame this week, of course. Technically, this is like a part two because our part one of the episode was NBA dominated. We decided to split it up into two. That kind of went over an hour. We didn't want to bore you with, maybe 2 hours of content if you're that much of a loyal listener, which probably not a lot of you, but yeah. This will be NFL playoff talk. That's right. We're going to be talking about the wild card round that already happened. We'll be talking about the divisional round predictions, of course, as well. Jurg, I already mentioned you. How are you, my good man?
I'm doing good, bro. I'm doing good. I'm happy to get back in the fold of things. It was, for all of us, Dame with what he was handling, you building Castle Chris on your end of things, and myself with work, and my schedule's just been hectic as hell over the last month and a half. It's been tough for all of us to be able to get back into things, but I'm glad that we're back and we're gonna right the ship here on the Somewhat Sports Podcast. We are back here because, as I've always said, this is a podcast for the people.
By the people. Yeah.
Yep. Yes, true. My bad. By the people, for the people.
You're good. Yeah. NFL talk. We're already at the end of the season, Jurg. Wild card round, come and gone. I will say brutal start to the playoffs because some of these games, man, most of these games were oof. Yeah. So we started off with 4 seed Houston Texans versus the 5th seed Cleveland Browns. Jurg, did you watch all the games?
Not all of them, because it's tough for me in my neck of the woods to be able to do so. But if I didn't watch the game live, I did see plenty of highlights. I did not see this game live, but I did see the highlights after.
Yeah. So first half of this game was generational. I was like, it had the makings of like an instant classic, bro. I was like, okay, Texans Browns going back and forth. Talk to me right now. And then the second half is just the Texans completely took over. Joe Flacco is Joe Flacco. And this became like a blowout, which was nuts. So the Texans beat the Browns 45-14. I think the story here is CH Stroud, who, in my opinion, as of right now, top 10 quarterback.
Yep.
What a great debut. What a great playoff debut. Houston just bypassed the whole rebuild because of this guy. 3 touchdowns, 274 yards. Didn't have more because it was a blowout by that time. CJ Stroud, man, he's here, bro. And they're doing this without Tank Dell, one of the primary wide receivers. And Jurg, I'm impressed, man. And they play the Baltimore Ravens in the next round. Oof. Shout out to them, man. DeMeco Ryans, phenomenal. I think he's going to be coach of the year, to be honest, right?
Him and Dan Campbell, I think, are the top 2 candidates.
Yeah, for sure. But because of the expectations of the Texans, I think where they were so low to begin the season, he's getting it. And
I think they should be co-coach of the year, personally. I think it should be co-coach of the year.
Sure, I could see that. But yeah, Texans, man, really fun team, really easy team to root for. CJ Stroud is that guy. Jurg, what do you make of this? And I guess CJ Stroud's playoff debut.
Hey, man, CJ Stroud has broken every single expectation thought possible. This is one of the best
Ohio State QB ever?
Basically, at this point. no one else you could really say, because the other Ohio State QB that could be in the convo is going to get traded this offseason. So I really think that, he took a team that had one of the best defenses in the NFL in this season that could make an impact, that could win games, and he just snapped it over his own knee. And there was nothing that could be done against him. He did not look like a rookie in this. And I think we're starting to see in multiple sports, like, young players are breaking our expectations of us thinking that they can't do they can't perform in the prime time too quickly just because they're inexperienced. There are certain guys, I'm not saying all of them, but certain guys that can break that stigma, and CJ Stroud is one of those guys. He is him. He should have been the first overall pick. Great job there, Dave Tepper. And the Texans have their guy. They have. I said this because, Chris, I don't know if you saw this. I know this is a little bit off topic with me talking about from the CJ Stroud talk, but let me just say this about DeMeco Ryans here, bro. There was a clip that I saw that a friend of mine shared to me where DeMeco Ryans, before one of the pick sixes by the Texans defense, he actually went over a play with the defender of how to read the route and jump it to bring it back, and the defensive play after that, they scored. So the Texans, after years of struggling, after bad coaching hires because their GM just didn't know what he was doing, and their owner was listening to the former team pastor, the New England Patriots, and their quarterback was focused more on handoffs off the field than on it. The Texans have their future in place. I don't like the general manager personally, but he hasn't screwed it up yet. They have their head coach for the next decade. They have their quarterback for the next decade. CJ Stroud's phenomenal. And like you said, this is a team that's not even 100%. We thought the Jaguars this time last year were going to be potentially having a strength in the AFC South. I think that's going to be the Houston Texans here because they are looking great.
Yeah. Shout out to CJ Stroud. Another AFC team, bro, on the come up. So yeah, I enjoy it. Because now they play the Ravens now in the next round, which I believe is tomorrow because we're recording on Friday. They're the first game actually to start off the divisional round. Chiefs Dolphins. 26 Chiefs, Dolphins 7. The Chiefs beat them. Dolphins leave again in the first round. Okay. Jerry, I think everyone kind of expect the Chiefs to win. The Dolphins, man, they're late in the season, just injury after injury. It was just brutal, bro. And they lost the divisional crown, bro. Like they had it and then they lost it, and they should have beaten the Bills at the last game of the season. And the Bills were asking them to win that game. Dolphins lose to the Bills, which is why they play the Chiefs. It was one of the coldest games in NFL history. Yeah, this was not a game in my opinion. It's just tough because I know they were beat up, but this is like the NFL. It's war of attrition, and like their primary pass rushers were, they were depleted on that end. I think both of them were hurt. Out for season actually, but yeah, I guess Tyreek Hill, man. I mean, you stay talking shit, brother, but you packing up, bro. You're going home now. Just the Chiefs defense just really, they slaughtered them, bro. And the Dolphins fan, you can't say it's like, we were in Kansas City. If this was in warm weather, I'm like, brother, you had the chance. Like, you can't just say that, bro. That's just how the NFL works.
This could have been a home game.
Yeah, well, y'all decide to fuck around, and yeah, it's tough, bro, because they were beat up. I understand that. They're gonna have to make a decision with Tua soon. That, I guess, is a larger conversation, but they're front runners at this moment, bro. Yeah. Like, it's Cowboys territory. Now, I think they're more talented than the Cowboys, funny enough, but I don't know. I think the ceiling for them, if they're healthy, is pretty high, but like they're never healthy. And I don't know. It was a disappointing end to a season that it started off hot, but they're now in the territory of just like, I mean, this is cool what you do in the regular season, but during the playoffs, I got to see what you offer. Yep. They need a home game, dude, to have a chance, in my opinion. In the either you get the bye in the first seed, which would be great because you have a home field advantage throughout, or you're just like a higher seed where you could guarantee at least one home playoff game.
Or two. They would have been the second seed if they had beat
the Bills.
They would have had 2 home games.
Yeah. But yeah, the Chiefs handled business. A better game than most because the Chiefs have had a very disappointing season. I mean, we haven't talked about it in a while, but disappointing season. They've kind of pseudo found their stride the last few weeks. This was like a better game from them, but still there needs to be some things that they have to clean up because they play the Bills next, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, I think this says more about the Dolphins. Chiefs, just another day in the office. Any comments on this, Jurg?
No, like you said, I just think the Dolphins, it's now back-to-back one-and-dones of the postseason when you were a wild card team that I think this case more so than last year, they could have won the division and avoided this. And there's something with this team when it comes to performing in the playoffs. And let's take away the cold first, because at the end of the day, it's unavoidable. Like you said, unless you're going to be the second seed with the 2 home games, or you're going to be the first seed and everything has to run through Miami, you have to be able to figure out how to play in the cold. Let's just figure that out.
Especially in the AFC.
Yeah, especially in the AFC with Kansas City and Baltimore and Buffalo. Like, in future seasons when they're good again, Cincinnati. Like, tough luck, Buttercup. You have to be able to play in the cold. But can we just talk about playoff performances of their top 2 weapons? Jalen Waddle, last season in the playoffs against the Bills, only 44 receiving yards. Now you could say, oh my God, there was no Tua last year. It was Skylar Thompson, this, then third. Okay. What do you do? 31 receiving yards this year? Tyreek Hill, I think in both postseason games now for his Dolphins tenure, sub 75 receiving yards after leading the league in yards this season. And I think he was second last year because Justin Jefferson went nuclear for the Minnesota Vikings last year. What is going on with this team where their guys can't perform in the postseason? Because now we're talking about a situation where in the Buffalo game last year, it wasn't even that snowy from what I remember. Yes, again, it was the Skylar Thompson thing, but it was not, there were no weather, what the hell am I trying to say? There were no poor weather conditions to hamper you in last year's postseason against the Bills. It was just you were on the road. Now this year, yes, there was weather, but your quarterback was healthy, and now you got smoked. So are we talking about a team that literally, if it's not on their own terms, they can't win? Because you're never going to win a Super Bowl like that. You need to figure something out. And like you said, Chris, I understand that they were banged up, but at the end of the day, the Bills lost Matt Milano and Tre'Davious White, and I think Jordan Phillips is their D tackle. Mid-season, we're talking about 2.5 months ago, the Bills lost these guys, and they were able to end up winning their first game in this postseason. Yes, I understand it's rough to lose your top 2 pass rushers. Other teams are dealing with injuries too here, brother. The Kansas City Chiefs receivers are also injured, Chris. They all have broken hands, basically, because if you're not Travis Kelce or Rashee Rice, none of these guys can catch a football worth a dang. So I'm sorry, Miami, you don't have any excuses to make. Other teams deal with the same conditions as you, deal with the similar injuries issues as you, losing guys. Not everything is ideal. The Chiefs are about to have to go in the road for the postseason. They might win that game. You have no excuses. You've underperformed for 2 straight years now. It's the end of the season. This can't keep going on. I love Mike McDaniel, but they need to figure something out. And Tua's future, like you said, future podcast for us to do. A lot of questions about Tua's future here. He's not looking like the quarterback that we thought he could have in terms of what his peak could be. And that's pretty disappointing for a guy that, sans injuries in his college careers, he could have been the first overall pick in his draft, or at least second. So
for sure. Makes for good content, though. All right, final AFC game in the wild card. Bills defeat the Steelers 31-17. I think once TJ Watt was ruled out, it was kind of just like, and this is kind of like over with. If TJ Watt was playing, I think it would have been a bit more interesting. I don't think Josh Allen would have ran 50 yards for a touchdown as much. I mean, he did it twice. Maybe one of them was 50 and the other one was few, but he ran for 2 touchdowns. He had a lot of yardage in them. Steelers made it interesting for a little bit, and then it's just oh shit, are the Bills going to choke this? And the Bills, one has Josh Allen, the other team doesn't. The other team has Mason fucking Rudolph, but the Steelers did the most they could. They're one and done. I think Bills expected to handle business. They did that. They looked a little shaky. They didn't look as solid as they should, but they won 31-17. Stephon Diggs, bro. That's a weird situation, but that could, they could catch fire any minute. I think the Steelers, I think this goes to a larger conversation similar to the Dolphins. There's a whole, cloudy Mike Tomlin future. I think he will be back, but I think there's a chance he might not be back. And I think another team will snag him, and then they will be ecstatic. The fact that he made the playoffs, bro, with no QB, basically.
How does he do this?
That's the thing, bro. He's awesome. And then you also have freaking, what's his name? Is it George Pickens or?
Yeah, Pickens is the one.
Who's the one that's on strike all the time?
Deontay Johnson?
It's Pickens. So, yeah, and then Pickens is frustrated with his role. I think he'll ask out eventually. Steelers are kind of in a weird situation, but because they're not bad, but also there's some question marks. I think if they get a quarterback, they'll be really fucking good, dude.
That's all they need. And we're not talking about in this episode. 2 or 3 quarterbacks are going to be available in the offseason via free agency that they could maybe nab up if they think it deems fit. So
because they have some really good weapons, man, on offense. But not much to say about that. So our AFC divisional round games will be the Baltimore Ravens, 1st seed, versus the 4th seed Houston Texans, and then of course 2nd seed Buffalo Bills versus the 3rd seed Kansas City Chiefs. We'll talk about that after, Jurg. NFC wildcard. These are all. Let's start with the Rams Lions because I actually think this was the best game of the wildcard round.
This was the only one that finished a 1-score game.
Yeah, and it wasn't even that great actually, but it was a 1-score game. So I had the Rams winning this because I think Stafford's kind of understands the Detroit environment. They have more playoff experience. Stafford has been on one ever since he got back from that hand injury early in the season. Dude, Matt Stafford was dealing this game, bro. Holy shit, was he awesome. My God, did they probably ignore the concussion protocol? Because this dude got rocked. And if you saw his face, he looked like he was in the 10th dimension. And
do you think he knew he was still in Detroit?
He probably thought he was a lion at that moment, to be honest. So he's a warrior, dude. He's such a tough dude, and he is just great to watch. Puka, stud, absolute stud. Lions, man, they like it's one of those games where like everyone shout out to Jared Goff. Like he actually played well besides like one bad possession. But like the running backs came to play. I thought it would be a good game. I thought it'd be a little bit better, but the offenses kind of did their thing as I expected. The defenses for both teams were very tough, to be honest. The Rams defense could not get a clean tackle to save their life, bro. And that's something they need to address in the offseason. McVay in the red zone has to be better. You can't just throw it up to Cooper Kupp every time, dude.
Yeah.
The Lions did phenomenal in terms of like red zone defense because they stopped them a lot, bro, and just they could not get touchdowns. There was just like 3 drives where like the Rams just kicked field goals, man, and their kicker's been pretty meh this season, so that was kind of tough for them. But yeah, shout out to the Lions, man. You did well. You're going to the divisional round. They won the playoff game for the first time in like 30 years. Shout out to them, Detroit. I know you're hype. You guys are really fun to root for. And you have a chance to go to the NFC Championship. So shout out to you. Jurg, any comments on this game?
I would say that, like you said, the Rams had to do a better job at finishing because both of their touchdowns were kind of just long balls, 1 to Tutu Atwell, which was his only reception of the game. And then Puka Nacua, 50 of his yards, I think, came on that touchdown that he had ultimately early on. I forget if it was the first or it was the first touchdown that they had early in the second quarter. So, but like you said, it just finishing off drives is what Detroit was able to do. And in the red zone, you said the running backs, they came to play. This is one of those games where you can't look at the stat sheet to get the full story. You have to watch the game. The Detroit Lions running backs between Montgomery and Gibbs, a phenomenal duo. The two of them were able to finish off the first 2 possessions for this team. And then Sam Laporta from Jared Goff in the second quarter. They did enough offensively to do great. Just their defense couldn't get it in the first half. Both defense, this was a tale of 2 games, Chris. We saw a highly entertaining first half that finished 21-17, and then we saw a second half where it was which defense is going to ultimately break and help this team win the game. And it was looking iffy there for Detroit for a while, but they were able to get the last stops that they needed, and the Lions were able to put the game away with their offense. Great stuff to say the very least from the Lions. It was a big win. And like you just mentioned, we're going to talk about the reason why this is going to be the case here in a moment here. The Lions now have a second home playoff game, like you said, to get them to the NFC Championship. This is why I say we should have co-coach of the year, because Dan Campbell is about to get the Detroit Lions on the precipice of an NFC title game for the first time in how long? Neither of us were alive if the last time that happened, if it even did. So this is just phenomenal for Detroit, to say the very least. I want to give all props and respects to the Lions. All 3 of us on the show, this has been a Pro Lions podcast. We all knew they would win the division going into this year and maybe get a playoff game. We're talking about legit NFC Championship conversation, like in terms of appearance for them. Just happy for you, Detroit. You deserve this because the Pistons and the Tigers are not doing that much for you, to say the least. So,
how about the Red Wings?
Oh, they're solid. They're all right. I still think they need to make another move here. But the Red Wings have actually been good this season. They're just in a really difficult division. The divisions in the Eastern Conference and the NHL are kind of murderer's rows at the top of it. So
okay, I'll take your word for it. Yeah. So shout out to the Lions. Other NFC game, because I think the one that should go last will be going last. Buccaneers defeat the Eagles 32-9. Bucs were actually home on this one. I don't know what happened. Well, let's shout out the Bucs first because they handled business. Because all the writings were on the wall for an early exit for the Eagles. Bucs took advantage. I think they were dominant the first half, but it was still like a 1-score game, and then they just took over the second half and they just kind of sealed it. Shout out to Baker. Baker was he good? 3 touchdowns, 337 yards, no picks. I think that's the most important part. So shout out to them, man. They did their thing. Now Baker has just as many playoff wins as Dak, dude. And that's good. And I'm happy for him. He seems to have found a home. They found their quarterback. I don't know what's going to happen with them in the future because Mike Evans is a free agent. But, I mean, fuck it, dude. You have a chance now to go to the NFC Championship. We'll see. I don't think they're going to win, but, I mean, you gave yourself a shot. You beat the Eagles. But I guess the big story here is the Eagles because of the second half of the season. Probably, arguably, one of the worst teams in the NFL. They start off 10-1, dude. And then just 1-6 after that. I don't know what happened. There's some stuff that's going to probably be leaked in the offseason in terms of what went on in the locker room. I think Sirianni lost the locker room. I think Jalen Hurts was really beat up. A.J. Brown just doing Ole Miss fucking wide receiver bullshit. Brown missed the wild card game with a knee injury. Jalen Hurts fucked his finger up in the last game of the season against the Giants, but he had to play because they were playing for like the division. Man, bro, it's just so many things fell apart. Kelsey is now retiring. Sirianni's probably on the hot seat. I don't know what's going to happen, but it just everything fell apart for them at the worst possible time. And now they're going home early. And then Jalen Hurts, the State of the Union address that he does post game, says that he's just like, it wasn't our time. It's like, well, yeah, at least he does say the right things, but it's crazy. I don't know. It's just crazy. The 180 from like how you started to like how you ended, it was crazy for them. I just did not expect it. I thought they would win this game because they had enough talent, and it's just like, fuck it, we're in the playoffs now. It truly does mean a lot to like have momentum at the end of the NFL season. And man, they were the opposite of momentum. Jurg?
I'm with you. First off, congratulations to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're moving on the postseason. Todd Bowles gave himself a little bit of extra time with that team. And Baker Mayfield just guaranteed his NFL career lasts a couple more years. The two of them phenomenal. I think I saw, Chris, Baker Mayfield joins, I think it's two other guys with 300 passing yards and 3 touchdowns and no interceptions, I think, in playoff wins for multiple franchises. Do you know who the other two guys on that list are?
No, tell me.
Brett Favre and Tom Brady.
Woohoo!
So Brett Favre, Baker Mayfield, Tom Brady. What a list, to say the very least. So that's the Bucs part. Eagles part. Let's get to it. Man, Philly was massively disappointing. And you and I both picked them because we thought that the talent could at least get them one win. I felt that they were going to lose in the next round no matter what, because the as we learned in a previous result from this, the winner of this game was always going to face the San Francisco 49ers. Or the winner could have faced San Francisco, excuse me. Had things broken differently, the winner of this game could have potentially faced San Francisco, and they were going to get dog-walked in that game no matter what. But now that you have this other result, man, oh man, like you said, I think one term summarizes it, Chris: frauds. They were frauds. This defense that, for whatever reason, I forget what happened to their defensive coordinator to start the year, if it just wasn't that locked down that then they gave it to Matt Patricia, the same guy who tanked in Detroit, the same guy who you as a franchise, I know it was a different coaching staff and quarterback and all that at the time, but the Philadelphia Eagles, put up 40 points against a Matt Patricia defense in the Super Bowl. I thought you could have figured out maybe you shouldn't give him the defensive play calling responsibilities. So you have that. Like you said, the offense just went away. Miles Sanders, who had a terrible year in Carolina, just for whatever weird reason, even though this was a decent running back room, because I actually do like DeAndre Swift, the running game just didn't make an impact. Jalen Hurts was not the same. And if we need to make the conversation for Jalen Hurts that if he's losing his number one weapon, he can't be as effective as a passer, then did the Eagles, I've been asking this question the entire week, Chris, did the Eagles just make a mistake in giving their second straight quarterback $200 million, basically? Because they did it with Wentz. They paid him too soon. They paid the price. They were barely able to get out from under that contract. Are they now, I think we need to start, wondering, just as a long-term thing, are they making the mistake now with Hurts? Because this did not look like the guy that went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. This did not look like the guy who should have been in contention for the MVP award this season. And I got to tell you, man, yes, I know it's the running game. You were talking about Tyrese Halliburton in the other episode, Chris, that'll be posted in congruence with this one, that Tyrese Halliburton is a bit of a assist hunter. Jalen Hurts is a rushing touchdown hunter, because if it wasn't for all of the goal line touchdowns that they do, the tush push, his running stats would not be as stacked up as they are. Yep. I don't think he's as great of a running quarterback as a lot of people want to make him as. I don't think he's Lamar. I don't think he's even a Cam Newton or a young Michael Vick. If the part of your game that's supposed to help you is kind of overrated and you didn't do your job here, has he improved as a passer to you? I don't think he has.
I think so. I don't know.
He looked like nothing without AJ Brown. He looked like he regressed without AJ Brown out there. And
not surprising per se, but I see what I hear you.
A league MVP can put up 300 passing yards without their top wide receiver. Yeah. A true top tier quarterback can do that. Patrick Mahomes has basically only had Travis Kelce the entire year. He had a couple,
not barely too, actually.
Come on, yeah, and Kelce didn't even get 1K yards this year. When you set the expectations high for yourself, if you don't meet those expectations, there's going to be questions. This Eagles team, everything of it deserves a lot of questions, including what the long-term futures for the key pieces are. I think, like you said, I personally wouldn't fire Nick Sirianni, but I kind of understand it if they do, because to them, they can't lose the locker room. Now, I have a lot of questions about that locker room if just this end of the season and you're not listening to Nick Sirianni anymore. I think that's more of a player issue than just the coach itself, but neither here nor there. This is a messy end to a season for the team that was the reigning defending NFC champions going into this.
Yeah.
And I think this just even gives more credence to what the 49ers are saying all year. They should have been the ones to win last year. And if they win the NFC this year, I think that even adds more fuel to that fire. So
yeah,
it's just rough times for the Eagles.
I want to play devil's advocate with Hurts because I do think he's one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. I do think, and I don't want to give excuses, but I do think the knee really fucked him up this year. I think the injuries kind of plagued them and him particularly, man. And it was just, he just wasn't. I mean, we've seen him ball out like against the Bills and all that, and like he's had really good performances. But I do think there was a lot of external and internal things, and also I just think physically his body was kind of fucked this year. So I want to give him the benefit of the doubt here. I really do, because I do think he's a really good quarterback, and it's not just like play wise. I do think leadership wise, like that, you also get your money's worth it. I if this is like a trend that continues next year, then I'll have concerns. But for now, I'm gonna give him like a little bit of a pass. But you're right. I think if you want to be an MVP candidate, you just got to be like a little better. But I don't know. Maybe I think the knee was an issue. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a report that he needs some type of offseason surgery. We'll see though. But that's where I stand on Hurts. I'm not gonna write him off yet. It was a bad season, a really bad ending. He definitely deserves a lot of the blame, but I also think some of the things are out of his control. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen with his wide receivers as well. Do you think they should go after Tomlin if he's available? Talk about a leader.
Yes, but you gotta make sure that they bring the right offensive guys there, because like if Tomlin's just gonna bring another Matt Canada with him,
Oof.
Like I'm not saying him exactly, but like you need to be smart and bring in the guy that's gonna make the right hire, or if you can convince him that maybe there's another offensive coordinator. Like here's the thing with coaches. I think when it comes to coaches, we need to realize that the coordinator hirings that they make are even more important than what we realize. Like you need to make sure that with Tomlin coming in, yes, I understand leader of men, this, that, and the third, but this is also a guy who he was the same person that allowed the toxicity in the Steelers locker room to fester. Like, yes, they were able to still win games and make the postseason with Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell there, and Ben Roethlisberger there as well in the latter stage of his career where he wasn't really all that. He also allowed the guys on the defense to kind of run free. He allowed Ben Roethlisberger to do whatever the heck he wanted. The offensive coordinator, and I'm putting very strong quotation marks on those words, was just Big Ben's puppet. This is a guy that, while I understand we could get swept up in his allure, this is also a guy that he hasn't won a postseason game in his last couple of trips. What is he, 2-8 or 3-7 in his last 10 playoff games? There's a lot of one and dones with Tomlin, man. Yes, he's a leader of men. Yes, maybe the players will listen to him. But is he going to let some of them have too much of free reign? I think you need to find a healthy medium between the coach and the players having control and say. And the fact that it's unraveled like that, because I thought that was actually the case with the Eagles this time last year between Sirianni and them. If one bad stretch of a season causes this, if you want to replace Sirianni, I'm cool with, but then you got to look at that locker room. Because you locker room leaders, Jalen Hurts included, like you said, he goes to every postseason and he might as well just start all his speeches with my fellow Americans. Like you have to, where is the onus on the players? And this is coming from one of the biggest player advocates in a lot of different situations. How many times have I spoken up for players on this podcast, Chris, in various issues with management?
A lot.
We need to hold these guys accountable. It can't just be the coach. It needs to be some of the players. And
Kelsey's gone now. So
and Jason Kelsey, one of the biggest names, is gone. And this might be a complete destruction of this team, a deconstruction where I don't think next season's going to be as smooth as this year should have been, or at least how it started out. Again, if you want to get Tomlin, cool. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't go after a guy like that.
But it's a Band-Aid. It's not necessarily a fix.
It's putting a Band-Aid on a crack in the pavement. We were born in NYC. We've seen construction. That takes a while. If you think you're going to fix that in the short term, no, that's not happening. So, tread cautiously. This is my thing. Tread cautiously if you're Philly. If you're going to make a move, don't expect the one move to fix everything. There needs to be 3 moves after if Tomlin is the guy, cool, whatever. You better have 3 moves in place to supplement that, because Tomlin alone ain't fixing this ship. It's not.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. Well said. I agree with you. We'll definitely talk about them more in the offseason. Final game of this divisional round. Packers, 7th seed, defeat the second seed Cowboys 48-34. Jurg, this game was over to me by the first quarter. I could say so much about this game, and I could say so much about this result. First of all, because we know the discussion will be, a shout out to the Packers. You
Yep.
lose Aaron Rodgers, and they scratch and claw and are the final wild card team, make the playoffs. Jordan Love, first season, up and down, but I saw mostly good. And they don't have like a 1A wide receiver, but they have a lot of good wide receivers. And I think that's good for them because it doesn't allow Jordan Love to be married to one wide receiver to a point where it stagnates the offense. Like, he's forced to move the rock, actually. And Matt LaFleur, man, he is, shout out to him, bro. I think he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. And, you lose Aaron Rodgers and you don't really miss a step. I mean, obviously you're not going to be as good, but dude, they won a wild card game. They won a playoff game. And shout out to them. They're one of the youngest teams, if not the youngest team in the NFL. They eviscerated the Cowboys. Jordan Love was a general, bro. Took command of that offense. Holy shit. Shout out to them, bro. You did the Lord's work by eliminating the Cowboys. Let's talk about the Cowboys now. I'm done. I was never on the bandwagon, but there are instances where I'm just like, okay, yeah, this team's talented to a point where they have to make a divisional round minimum. I will not be moved by any metric in the regular season anymore. I never thought they would make a noise. Like I always thought divisional round was their ceiling. I thought maybe they could get lucky if they avoid both the Eagles and the Niners. But I was like, okay, with the way the Eagles are playing, maybe you could get lucky and go to the NFC championship game, and then you get bounced by the Niners because you just can't beat them. I'm done now. Dak does not matter what he does in the regular season. You could put up historic numbers. I do not care because now I just don't trust you by any means in the playoffs. Mike McCarthy, good coach. Again, do not trust him. The defense, what are we doing here? Micah Parsons, this is why, bro, you got to stop. Guys, stop having a podcast, bro, please. Leave the losers like us to have the podcast. No, just like Micah Parsons, bro. It's just, you dig the hole deeper, bro. That's what it is. You just make this worse for yourselves, and then shit like that happens. Defense was fucking atrocious to watch. I don't know what happened. Obviously, Trayvon Diggs was a huge loss early in the season, but still, man, I thought they maintained. But there were times where like the wide receivers for the Packers were like no one was around them. Dak, I don't care, bro. That was brutal to watch. Those picks he had were, oh god, were they awful to look at. He was stat padding at the end too. I don't want to hear it. Game was already over. CeeDee Lamb 110 yards.
This game is closer as it looks, and it was a 16-point game. That just lets you know it was just a thorough destruction.
It was, the Packers just blitzed them, bro. They blitzed them. I thought the Cowboys got a touchdown by the end of the first half by accident. And I was like, okay, maybe there's still a modicum of hope. No. The way that the third quarter happened, I was like, this is just, I can't believe this. I'm priding myself on not falling for them, and now I think the whole world at this point is in the same boat now, because why should I trust this team by any means? And they're stuck with this team now because I don't think Dak's going to go anywhere. McCarthy is confirmed staying. I don't think Jerry Jones wants to work with Bill Belichick. Unserious teams make unserious moves. So Cowboys, I'm glad you guys are sticking with the way you are because it's a shit show that's waiting to happen, and that means it's better podcast episodes for us. So Jurg, I mean, we knew this was happening. I know there's Cowboys enthusiasts out there that thought maybe this year could be different, especially with the way the Eagles kind of unfolded.
Right.
And I guess that second best NFC team spot was up for grabs. Because we all know the Niners are the team to beat.
Yep.
And then you lose to the Packers, the 7th seed. So
the first ever 7th seed to win a playoff game.
Yeah, there you go. Even salt in the wound. But go ahead, pal.
I just want to give a shout out, Chris, to the Linsanity run that the NFC East was on from last season.
Bro, crazy.
Because 3 teams in this division made the playoffs last year. but there were question marks about him. And I brought it up in the preseason when we did NFL and on my other podcast as well, that I didn't believe in the Giants. And what happened to the Giants? They lost. We saw the end of the season. We thought that the Eagles would be able to talent their way to one win. They didn't. They lost. And now the Cowboys. I don't think I could say the usual thing about them because that might as well be trademarked at this point. So I don't want to get our podcast fined here. But do they even deserve to be called choke artists at this point? Because that to me, calling someone a consistent choke artist means that there should be a yearly true belief in them. Like you said, I'm not moved by this team anymore. I'm going to disagree with one thing you said and everything you said. I think every other point you made, valid. There's one point that you made that I completely disagree with. Mike McCarthy isn't a good fucking head coach.
Oh, okay.
In his entire career, this dude has been carried from when he was a coordinator to his time with the Packers to now this by good quarterbacks. He worked with Joe Montana. He worked with Aaron Rodgers. And that has given him the little hardware he has. He is somehow a better coach for the Packers leaving them than being there for them. Like, what in God's green earth was the decision by Jerry Jones to do this, to keep this man who 3 straight 12-5 seasons, and every single time it's a loss in the divisional round. And let me give you a spoiler, Cowboys. If you somehow, some way made it past this round and made it past, let's just keep the results as is. You defeated the Lions, you would have gotten smoked by the 49ers. They were whooping you in the NFC title game to begin with. So, like, your delusions of grandeur end there. This is a team that has done nothing with the gobs of talent they've had over the last 3 years. This is a team that we have constantly been told, oh, it's the running backs that need to improve. Oh, it's the wide receivers, and you just have to wait for who was CeeDee Lamb. A lot of self-inflicted wounds with this team. Zeke wasn't right anymore. The offensive line, they were able to somehow keep it well after all these years. I'll give one piece of credit there. They kept the offensive line good. But Dak Prescott last season turned it into just a complete turnover-prone dude who, he said before the season, hey, I'm not going to throw 10 interceptions for the year. You were right until you got to the playoffs, buddy. And just every single thing this team does is to wound itself. And I heard Cowboys fans try to make excuses both during and after the game that, the turning point of the game, the Jair Alexander interception, it should have been overturned because it was defensive pass interference. No, it wasn't. When your own wide receivers are saying that wasn't defensive pass interference, shut up. There's that. There's them trying to say, they didn't run the game the same way. They were doing a completely different scheme in this game compared to the rest of the year. Guess what? That's what coaches are for. And if your coach deliberately changed the way you've been doing things for this game and you got smoked, whose fault is it? You kept the guy. Jerry Jones, look, we're no strangers to Jerry Jones making head-scratching decisions. Maybe this was just an emotional decision he needed more time of. We know, Chris, that Jerry Jones hasn't been this upset since the 1960s with various things. Jerry Jones is a guy who's been known to make irrational decisions. Maybe we need to give it another week for Mike McCarthy, because if that isn't the case, if he is actually saying as the head coach of this team, we don't need to pay attention to the Cowboys at all. We need to put onto them the Damian Lillard band that we have. I'm sorry I had to say his name, but just for the example, is that on this podcast, we refused to say Damian Lillard's name until he got traded from the Portland Trail Blazers. And we've, funny enough, barely said his name since that trade happened. So there's irony there. But, I do not want us to talk about this team until next season, if we can. I know if something crazy happens in the offseason, fine, we can make the exception. Yep. But we do not need to consider this team as a true contender in the NFC, because the San Francisco 49ers would have smoked them this year. And I have a hint for you. The Niners are going to smoke them next year too. So there is just absolutely no reason for us to have belief in this team, which, by the way, because they won the division this year, Chris, their schedule is going to be a lot harder next season because they're going to face other number 1 seeds from divisions. So just miss me with everything about the Cowboys. Do not need to take this team serious anymore. They are a joke of a franchise that have accomplished absolutely nothing. I think the last time they made the NFC title game was 95 or 96? Mm-hmm. And the two of us and Dame are part of that. You have an entire generation of people who have grown up, got a degree. Some people got multiple degrees. some people might have
got married.
Lockstep. Married. Kids, bro. My friend is getting married in May. He is a year younger than us. He's about to get married before the Cowboys have made it back to the NFC title game.
Good God.
Good. There are people who were teenagers the last time they made it that have had multiple children since then, and their kids are probably in high school or close to college. Just put that thought in your brain here for a second. Like the Cowboys, this is the team that so does not deserve to be called America's team, and the only reason that they've been called this is A, because it was a nice little tagline to put on them, and B, it's back when TVs only had a couple channels, and the Cowboys were always on one of those channels.
Just static.
You don't deserve jack shit with being America's team. You don't deserve that monarchy. You're not even the best team in Texas anymore because the Houston Texans have a brighter future than you. Joke of an organization, joke of a franchise, joke of a head coach, a quarterback. Look, I've defended Dak Prescott before. I could not defend this. This is absolutely indefensible. Like, it's just, like, bro, you lost by 16 points.
To Jordan Love.
Not just to Jordan Love. You know, Chris, you know how much it angers me the fact that my Jordan Love take has been rendered awful because of the Cowboys. I played a role in that. You know, so I'm not going to lie. A little bit of anger is coming from that. But the sheer fact that you're the first ever team to lose to the 7th seed.
The jokes write themselves.
How? When we were teenagers, it was a joke that Stephen A would say that somehow, some way, every single year the Cowboys were going to mess up. And it's like, all right, one is a one-off, 2 is a trend, 3 is a what is happening here, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Dear Lord, man, when are you going to beat the allegations, bro?
Never.
When are you going to beat these allegations?
So let me ask you this, Jurg. It's a good segue to this, and then we'll talk about a prediction for the divisional round.
Yep.
So, well, they're keeping McCarthy because that's confirmed.
Yep.
Is there any move or moves, plural, because there has to be moves, that they can make for you? And I'm not going to say you're going to be fully on board because you're a sane person. Is there any moves that you'd be like, all right, I guess? Like, is there a trade? Is there something?
They missed their shot. It was firing McCarthy. Because Dak Prescott, I learned this today.
Anything roster-wise, like player-wise, or no?
Did you know Dak Prescott has a no-trade clause?
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
I
can't believe it. I know how it works, but I can't believe it.
All the quarterbacks in this league to have a goddamn no-trade clause.
Especially with that performance.
Like, what are we doing here?
So you're saying they need to move on from him if you're going to keep McCarthy?
No. I'm not saying that. They don't have a choice. I've actually heard that the Cowboys are going to have to consider giving Dak a contract extension because I think his cap hit this year is $60 million or $55 million. And there's no way you're going to be able to keep this team together like that. If I could move on from my diatribe for a second, I think the one thing you could try to do if you're Dallas is maybe try to get the pass rush a little bit more consistent. Because I felt that the pass rush, aside from Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, weak aside from the two of them. And if you're going to be a threat in the postseason, maybe not necessarily having the number one defense because you saw how much that worked for Cleveland, but having a more consistent defense because, and I'm saying DeMarcus Lawrence, he only had 4 sacks this season. Micah Parsons led the league with 14. You had 2 other guys there with Dorrance Armstrong, who had 7.5 sacks, I think it was this season. And he's had back-to-back seasons. He might be hitting free agency this year, so that dude could potentially get paid. And Sam Williams out of Ole Miss, who this is year 2, 4.5 sacks. Okay, like, they need a way to get a lot more consistent pressure to just give these quarterbacks problems because, dude, Jordan Love had and this is a Green Bay Packers team that had injuries amongst the offensive line this entire year as well. Jordan Love had all the time in the world to make some of those throws. And he was just pinpoint with them. And then, like you said, the only thing I can think of is maybe tweak the defense here and there. A combination with the pass rush and maybe the secondary a bit because
you need a wide receiver too, bro. Need some help.
It's funny. You could say a wide receiver 2, TOO, and a wide receiver 2, TWO.
Yeah.
Michael Gallup has not lived up to the contract that they traded Amari Cooper for to keep him, by the way. And look how Amari Cooper has been in Cleveland since that trade. So just you need to. There needs to be a lot of tweaking to this team. There needs to be a lot of work around the edges. The core is in place. They can't really do much about that. They don't really have much of a choice about that. To me, you lost it with keeping Mike McCarthy. This team is I'm not picking this team to win the Super Bowl. You kept the biggest detriment to your squad, which is Mike McCarthy and Dan Quinn. By the way, it was like an Atlanta Falcons-esque defensive play calling performance. What the heck was he doing? Which again, my last point, the point that I said, Chris, I saw a lot of people on Twitter were saying that the Cowboys called this game differently from the other games they had this season. Why? Why did you go away from what made you great? Why? Look, I know the Packers just beat them. Chris, are you scared of this Packers defense? Yes or no?
No.
Why would you change the game plan? I am not a Cowboys fan. I do not have an NFL fan affiliation, so I can criticize everyone as much as I want. What is the logic of you completely change the game plan for this game when you didn't need to? Because this is not a defense that necessarily generated so many turnovers, despite the fact that you made them look like they could do that with the Darnell Savage pick six and the Jair Alexander interception. Which Jair Alexander, happy to have you back in the All Pro corner.
He's awesome, bro.
I've always loved him. A lot of people turned against him towards the end of the season because the whole he went into the captaincy line, whatever. Jair Alexander is one of the best corners in the game. He's phenomenal. So
he's hilarious too.
Welcome back to the All Pro caliber conversation, Jair. But no, man, it's just I am whelmed by the Cowboys now. I will not be overwhelmed by what they do. I've already been underwhelmed by keeping the coach. I'm just whelmed by this team. They could win, and here's the thing: I'm not saying they're lacking talent. Chris, I think they're going to win 10, 11, 12 games again next season. They might win this division next year if we think the Eagles are going to collapse.
And will it matter?
It means absolutely nothing.
Yep.
It just means nothing at all. So,
yep.
Cowboys, congratulations on the 2025 playoff exit because you're not doing anything next year. You kept the worst part of your team. So, yeah.
All right. That's the wild card round. We'll be brief with this because we also have picks on our Instagram page, somewhat.sports, where we have our predictions for the NFL games. Follow us there. Divisional round, Jurg. It looks like it'll be better than the wild card round.
I hope.
Tomorrow, Texans versus Ravens, 4:30 Eastern time, of course, and then at 8, and then the later game will be the Packers versus the 49ers. I'll say this: Ravens have the most pressure here because number 1 seed, you got the bye. I hope rest doesn't turn to rust for Lamar.
Right. And it has before for them as the 1 seed.
Yes. Texans have a lot of momentum, and they have nothing to lose. So be careful. And CH Stroud is playing like he's a top 10 quarterback right now. So be careful, Ravens. Take care of business. Don't play with your food. But I will say this: I have not been confident in the Ravens years previous in the playoffs. So this is not a foregone conclusion. I don't think it's a confirmed win. I think Ravens gut it out. I expect a good game. Be careful though, because I would not be surprised if the Texans somehow pull this off. That's what I have to say about it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this will be a close game. I don't think this should be a 9.5 spread that I'm seeing on some places.
That's
wild. I think if the Ravens win this, I think it's because of the pass rush that they are able to induce. They've been a pretty good team at that this season, and Roquan Smith has been phenomenal for the Baltimore Ravens in the year of our Lord 2023, now going into 2024. Even though he doesn't necessarily get the sack numbers, he helps free guys up on this team. Did you know that one of their defensive tackles has 13 sacks this year, Chris?
Jesus Christ.
Yep. And they also have Jadeveon Clowney, who had 9.5. So this team can get to the quarterback. They have the ability to do so. They have tackling machines. I think the front seven for the Ravens will be the reason they win this game. And I think the offense, like you said, don't mess around, don't screw around, do your job, and don't be cute with it. So I think just like it'll be a very close game. Maybe like, what do you think? Like, just as a guess, like 30-24 maybe type deal. The Ravens could hold on to win. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a very close game that leads to this.
Yeah. So. Okay, Niners Packers. I think similar sentiments to like the Texans Ravens. I think Niners should win this one. Don't play with your food though, because Packers again have momentum and they have confidence and they have nothing to lose. So similar to the Texans Ravens, 49ers, clean up. Don't play with your food. Get this done. Get this done ASAP. This is going to be Purdy's first playoff game since the elbow injury last season. Last game in the playoffs for the Eagles. I think it's important for Purdy to have a really good game here because he needs to Purdy's confidence will be instrumental to see how far. I think the Niners are. I mean, they're gonna win the NFC, but I think if Purdy's on a run of confidence and he has a lot of momentum and he has like a 3 touchdown game and this game ends by the third quarter, they're in a really good position, in my opinion. Packers, again, nothing to lose. Just try to make it as close as possible if you're them. And if it's close, it's anyone's game by the end. So yeah, that's how I feel about it. But Niners ultimately win. They're just way too talented. Yeah,
I'm with you. I think this should be the one game of the weekend where if there is a big tip in terms of point differential going for a team, it should be for the 49ers. You need to I understand what you're saying, and I'm not saying this because the 49ers shouldn't take them seriously. I'm saying the 49ers should take them seriously and stomp them into the ground if you want us to continue to take you seriously.
Yes.
If you're San Francisco, anything less than a 2-touchdown win in this game is cause for concern.
Yeah.
Going into the NFC title game. I'm just saying, like, that's how they should be handling it. And I want to believe and think that they are going to be handling it like that. I'm with you. I think the 49ers are winning this game lock and step.
Yeah, I think the 49ers are the team to beat, actually, just in general, to be honest.
But I know the Ravens beat them in the regular season. I'm not taking a lot of solace in that game. I think the 49ers, if it's at a Ravens-Niners Super Bowl, I think the Niners can beat them. I'm just saying. Spoiler
alert for picks, but we'll see. Sunday, I think the better batch of games, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Bucs-Lions. Lions will be home, of course. I got the Lions for this one. Would not be surprised somehow if the Bucs win this game. I don't know why. I think it's both teams have a lot of momentum. I think both coaches have done really well. Both really good story with both their quarterbacks, of course. Two quarterbacks are written off, and now they're in the divisional round against each other. Did they have a regular season game? I think they did, right?
Give me one moment.
I'll look it up. Actually, I don't know.
Yeah, they did. October 15th, early in the season, 20-6 Lions won that game.
Okay, so I mean, I think the Bucs run defense is really good. This is just going to be, I think the Lions ultimately home game for them. I just think they have more talent on their end. Do what you can to kind of neutralize Mike Evans. Baker, if you could somehow have a repeat performance. I think if Baker has a repeat performance, then like he did with the Eagles, they have a shot. But I just think everything's aligned for the Lions right now. Laporta's playing. That was huge for them. And then, of course, the run game. It's just the run game is too versatile to stop, in my opinion. I think with Montgomery and Gibbs, it's just going to be tough to stop. If Jared Goff, it's the same thing with Baker. Just like stay even keeled here. Don't make dumbass mistakes like you kind of did once against the Rams, where that was really bad because I could just flip the game around. But yeah, I got the Lions winning this. Bucs have a shot. I do think they have a shot, though. I don't think it's going to be a blowout.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be a game where the team that is able to establish the running game, because the last time in that regular season game when these two teams met, Chris, the Lions ran for 40 rushing yards as a team, and the Buccaneers ran for 46. So both teams put together didn't even total 90 rushing yards between the two of them the last time they met. So whose ever running game is able to help make a difference with things, I think is going to be big. I think I will give this edge to the Lions. They're at home. You know, yes, the Bucs have momentum, but so do the Lions. I think with that big, with the close win that they had against Detroit, or with Los Angeles, excuse me. I'm thinking of Stafford there. Maybe I got the Stafford concussion myself, but I think that if you are the Lions, so much momentum in your way, so much that you can do to get to the NFC title game here potentially. Don't waste an opportunity. You never know when you get this chance again. You can't drop this year. So I have Detroit winning this game at home and going to the NFC title game.
All right, final game. Arguably the biggest one. Should be the best one, hopefully. Chiefs-Bills, part 3 of the Mahomes-Allen saga. Yeah, I hope this is as advertised. This is tough. I know the Bills are favored. I think the Bills win this one, Jurg. I think they finally beat the Chiefs. I'll be rooting for the Chiefs, but I think the Bills got hot at the right time, and this is kind of a down year for the Chiefs. They'll be in Buffalo. They won't be in, Arrowhead, and I think that's a big thing for the Bills. I'll say this, though, bro. I mean, you could go either way. I think this is it's a toss-up, to be honest. But for the reasons I just stated, I think the Bills win this one. Most pressure is going to be on Josh Allen. Mm-hmm. And that could lead to CTE Josh Allen. Right? But I think the makings are there for them to finally beat the Chiefs. But I'll say this. I've said that way too many times. If they don't beat them, if the Bills lose to the Chiefs, who are having their worst season in a bit, and they're in a down year, and virtually no wide receivers besides Kelsey and Rice, oh boy, my goodness, where narratives will be had.
Yep.
They can't lose this. The Bills cannot lose this game. Because not only are you one of the top teams in the AFC, and you need to make the AFC title game at least, but just mentally speaking, you just can't beat Mahomes and the Chiefs then, which is huge for Josh Allen, bro. You got bounced by Burrow last year.
Yep.
In your home stadium.
Yep.
And then you were 0-2 against Mahomes in the playoffs. You've done a good job kind of, coming back. this season. A lot of defensive injuries. You've maintained. You can't lose this. The makings are there for you to win this game. Now, again, focus on the Chiefs. If they beat the Chiefs, I think there's a good chance they make the Super Bowl, in my opinion. But they need to win this game. It's a can't lose. The Chiefs, I think, less pressure on them. I mean, obviously, Mahomes, you're chasing greatness, and like obviously you want to win. But I think the pressure is all on the Bills and Josh Allen. Again, I'm choosing the Bills. My mind says the Bills. My heart says the Chiefs. I'm going to go with my mind for this one. But I don't know. I think it's going to be a close game for sure. For sure. But if it's a close game, oof, I don't know. I mean, I know the Bills have beaten them in the regular season. There was no Pacheco that game. I don't know, Jurg. I do think them being home is good for them, though. I think they ultimately got it out and win this one. I just don't trust the Chiefs wide receivers for this one. It's tough. It's tough. If they do win, if the Chiefs do win, it's ultimately because Mahomes just puts on the Superman cape. If the O-line could hold up and no mistakes for the Chiefs end, I think they could win. But they need Kelsey to not drop those passes, bro. They can't have that. The Chiefs defense is going to have to win them the game, and then they're going to have like a few spectacular, throws here that gets them like 3 touchdowns at least. But yeah, but the Bills are a little beat up on the defensive end as well. They got some injuries that they sustained against the Steelers. So I don't know. If there was ever a time for the Chiefs receivers to step up, it's now. But yeah, I have the Bills winning this slightly. Not confident though. Jurg?
I know this hurts both of our hearts to say that Haley Steinfeld's boyfriend is going to win
that sucks.
the game here. And wow, we're going 4 for 4 on this. But yeah, I'm barely picking the Bills here because here's my thing, Chris.
Yep.
If not now, then when?
When?
Joe Burrow and the Bengals missed the playoffs this year because of injuries and of like 2 injuries to him, by the way. And the defense was also not that great in Cincy this year. The Kansas City Chiefs are having a down year. No one aside from Rashee Rice, which again, props to him. He deserves a lot of credit. And Travis Kelce can catch the ball for the Kansas City Chiefs. The defense is great, but the offense is actually the weakest it's looked ever since Mahomes has gotten there. Heck, it's even probably weaker than the last year Alex Smith was there, if we're being honest.
Cool.
Which says a lot. The Baltimore Ravens, while yes, they're the number 1 seed, we're not fully confident. They've lost in the postseason in the AFC while they were the number 1 seed with Lamar before. If not now, then when? We have criticized this team a lot this year. We criticized them after the Jets game, where I said that they looked like they could have potentially been a one-and-done team, which, to be fair, they did look like that. And when they were, 6-6 during the season, it was looking rough for them. They won a critical stretch of games, beating the Cowboys, beating the Chiefs, beating the Chargers. If not now, then when are you going to finally exercise your demons? When are you going to exercise the demons of Josh Allen finally getting over the hump against one of the 2 arch rivals he has in the AFC in the postseason? When are you going to overcome the demons that Buffalo has had ever since the franchise started? 4 straight Super Bowls for this team in, was it the late 80s going into the 90s or just all in the 90s, whatever it was? 4 straight Super Bowls for the Buffalo Bills, lost all of them. AFC is ripe for the taking. We have said this season that the AFC was probably the more wide open conference compared to the NFC. The NFC was the conference of powers. The AFC was the wide open field.
Yeah.
When are you going to get this shot again? Like you said, maybe Stephon Diggs isn't happy. Maybe he gets traded in the offseason. What are you going to figure out when? He needs to have a breakout game. He needs to show up. He hasn't really had a game like that this season, or at least not in a while. Like, if you are the Bills, this should be the tagline. If they win the championship, this should be the tagline, or like going into it. If not now, then when?
Yeah, I don't know.
I know, but I'm just saying because that's the mindset they need to have, and they need to put everything out there. I'm picking a very close game here. I'm saying these games should be close because God, wildcard weekend was boring. If we're being fully honest,
yeah.
If I am an NFL fan, I'm hoping for a close game. It should come down to the final throw. And if you want to make your legacy, Josh Allen, you're the one that wins this game. Win, and you move on back to the AFC title game. And if you maybe get lucky, maybe it's at home. Maybe it's at home if the Ravens lose.
Oh, yes, you're right.
Like, who knows? So at the end of the day, if you're the Bills, this is your moment. This is where you grab that brass ring and you prove everyone wrong. I'm picking the Buffalo Bills to barely win here. If not, like, I know I've said it multiple times, but this should be the tagline for this team. This should be the tagline for this episode, basically, for a lot of these teams. If not now, then when?
Yep. Because Burrow will be back. The Texans will be better. The Jaguars will be better. Maybe the Jets.
Yep.
You're right.
This is the year where Rodgers went down. where the Jaguars disappointed everyone, where Trevor Lawrence is still a franchise quarterback, by the way.
Yeah.
We've missed so much since we did an episode.
Yeah.
CJ Stroud has emerged to be a young franchise quarterback. Like you said, I think it is not an overreaction to say he's a top 10 QB in this league already. The Chiefs extremely down year, which who knows how much better it's going to get because the Mahomes contract had to get reworked. Kelsey said he's going to stay. Is Chris Jones leaving this team? Like, there wasn't an extension. Like, there's so many questions about the Chiefs going into the future, but they've been able to find a way to answer some of them and make it back. Like, you cannot let the prime opportunity go. I said this for the Lions. I'm going to say it for you. You never know when you're going to get back here.
Yeah.
You need to make the most of the opportunity. So I'm picking the Bills to win this game.
Yeah. Jurg, some news. Safety Taylor Rapp, wide receiver Gabe Davis, cornerback Christian Benford, and linebacker Balin Spector are all out against the Chiefs.
I think the biggest loss here is probably Rapp because, just losing another piece on that defense is rough.
Because I think Kincaid is having he's a breakout. Like, he's really good. And
if you're Buffalo, run the twin tight end sets with Knox and Kincaid. Why have we forgotten about Dawson Knox? Yeah. Like, you can run the two, bro. The tight end talent in this league is absurd. You have two of them on, let's be real here. They're both athletic freaks in nature. They're run the twin tight end set on your running plays if you want to free up Cook and Allen. Like, that's that. Just yes, I know they're hurt here, but Jesus, everyone is hurt at this point. Like, it's not an excuse, Buffalo. I just said it about Miami. I'm going to say it about you too. It's not an excuse. Find a way to win. Simple as that.
Yeah, look at us betting against Mahomes. We'll see how that works out for us.
We've rarely done that in the history of this podcast,
and we've been wrong because I think you and I had the Bengals beating them in the AFC title game, and we lost that one.
Not my finest decision.
Yeah, that'll do it for this episode. Jurg, I hope you have a good divisional round. I mean, we're gonna have a lot to talk about next week. Pretty eventful. But if you haven't checked out our previous episodes, we kind of talked about it. We're gonna have a hockey episode, we're gonna have an NBA episode, and now we're gonna have this football episode. So 3 episodes out. We know we've missed a lot of time, but we're here to make up for some content. Maybe Dame will be back. Who knows where life takes us? But yeah, that'll do it for this week. Jurg, thank you for steering the ship with me. I appreciate you. Where can they find us on the socials?
Guys, you already know you can follow us at somewhat.sports to get the updates for the pod. We know things have been slow going from the end of last year into this year, like Chris has said, but the content is now churning out. We got 3 episodes here that are all going to be bangers, whichever order you're listening them to at this moment, and you're hearing my voice here to finish things off. Thank you all so much for listening to us on these episodes. Slow start to the year, we know, and slow finish to last year, but hey, things get a churning, just like we were talking about in all these episodes. We're about to have our second half of the year, or in our case, the full part of 2024, and it's going to be a good year here on the Somewhat Sports Podcast. And please make sure you listen to us on a weekly basis on Spotify and YouTube. Somewhat Space and Sports. Like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give us the follow and 5 stars on Spotify. Let us know what you want more of. We're gonna keep trying to bring our fun little guests here and there. Myself with Rick, our boy Justin Stu has been chomping at the bit to come back on the show here, Chris, to talk some football with us as well. So our guy there, Bars, we have some friends we can bring along. Come along for us with a ride, because Chris, I'm confident. I'm saying this right now. 2024 is the year of the Somewhat Sports Podcast, and we're happy to have you all with us along the way.
Beautifully put as always, Jurg. Beautifully put as always. Like Jurg said, we'll try to be more consistent with content. A lot of episodes lined up, a lot of events lined up. Super Bowl around the corner, trade deadline around the corner for the NBA. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. So yeah, to all listeners listening, if you made it this far, we appreciate you. And until next time, peace.